So the other night, before we talk about your statement the other night at the city council meeting, let's talk about the basin study that is set for the water district to do in 2023. You've been a big proponent of doing the basin study. So I guess my first question is, number one, who's going to pay for it? Because back in 2012, when a basin study was proposed back then, the Virgin Valley Water District ratepayers were going to pay $500,000 for that study, and the U.S. Geological Survey would possibly pay another $500,000 for that study. So I am not against a basin study. I don't think anybody's really against a basin study, but the Virgin Valley Water District is at the very bottom of the totem pole in terms of the outcome of that study, because the Basin 222 aquifer, where we get all of our groundwater, our culinary water, is also shared by Utah and Arizona. So it's not just the Virgin Valley Water District in the state of Nevada that would benefit or be harmed by the outcome of that study. So tell me who you think should help pay for that study that obviously is, back in 2012 was going to be $1 million. It's obviously going to be more now.
First of all, let me explain something about the basin, maybe that you may or may not know. The basin 222, as you mentioned, is shared by Utah and Arizona. That's fine, but the basin is over permitted.
Not according to the state engineer in Nevada.
No, that's not true.
Yes.
If you look at if you count up the permits. There are roughly 12,700 permits, if I could look up the number here.
12,271.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Acre feet.
Acre feet, that's correct.
And
currently,
the Virgin Valley Water
May I answer the question?
Virgin Valley Water District holds 99% of those permitted acre feet.
That's correct. And they have the capability of pump 15,000 acre feet.
But we're only pumping about 6,600 acre feet right now.
You're pumping around 7,000 acre feet. And by the way, that 7,000 acre feet that you're pumping is roughly more than twice the perennial yield that comes out of that basin.
We're going to get to perennial yield in a few minutes.
So, it depends on how you look at the numbers. They have the capability in their wells to pump up to and in excess of the permits. And we'll get to the perennial yield later if you want. In 2017, the Nevada legislature passed legislation saying, hey, you need to study these basins conjunctively. Now, conjunctively means when you need to take a look at these basins at all sources of water. Okay?
Right, and the only one that the Virgin Valley Water District has not done is the effluent.
They haven't done a study they have not done a conjunctive study of the basin. They have not. And
no.
Well, wouldn't that be the state engineer, though, that was...
If I can answer the question, we'll get to that.
Okay.
The state engineer, by state legislation, by law.
I have the laws right here.
Oh, good. Then it's the state policy to study the basins conjunctively. You know that from the statute.
Yes.
The second thing you know from the statute is it is up to the state engineer to establish the water budget. Now, there's a definition in terms of water budget. Water budget generally refers to underground water, but whatever. So fundamentally what they're saying is you got to study the basin, and the state engineer establishes whatever the water budget is for that basin. Now,
the state engineer has done that. He has done a budget on that aquifer and has appropriated the 12,271 acre feet.
No.
Yes.
Yes. We can argue. No, that's not how the permits were issued. These permits were issued, many of these permits came from Farmstead and other places.
That
They're
may
not-
be how they are issued, but that's not how they're currently administered.
What do you mean by that? How they're administered?
Because he has, in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, he has come back and said to the water district that those appropriated 12,271 acre feet of groundwater in the Basin 222 that is appropriated to the Virgin Valley Water District is still viable and intact.
Please provide me with that reference.
I will.
Very good. But we're agreeing to the same thing.
Can we go back to the question
we're agreeing
about
to
who
the same
pays
thing.
for it? Who
Oh,
pays
yeah,
for
if you
the
like,
basin
but-
study? Let's go back to that.
Okay. Let's go back to what happens if we don't have water.
No, let's go back. Let's start with,
I'll tell you who should
Who
pay for it.
pay for it?
The
Who's
water board
pays?
should pay for it and the city should pay for it. The water board just took out a $10 million bank loan. And $1 million out of that to find out how much water they have? Come on, give me a break. We need to know how much water is in that basin. We're growing beyond the capability of that basin.
but if Utah and Arizona also share water out of that basin,
Look,
shouldn't they
The U.S.
assist?
Geological Survey doesn't
And shouldn't
care.
the state assist?
Oh, sure they could.
State
I
of
don't-
Nevada? Why should the Virgin Valley Water District pay for all of it when they're not the
Wait, hold it. You're arguing with me.
when
You asked me a question about who
Utah
I-
and Arizona, because you're not answering the question. That's why I'm saying that.
You asked me the question, who should pay for it? I gave you an answer.
So you think the Virgin Valley Water District should pay for the whole thing?
I think the Virgin Valley Water District, the city should contribute, and I think
Why?
Why? Because it's the city that creates the demand for water.
But they're a separate government entity.
Last year, the CISLAC passed, CISLAC signed, and the legislature passed a requirement that cities and counties do water studies.
Yes, but
If you read that, okay.
I did.
Then you know that it is a requirement that they do that, but it can be done by a water district.
Now,
And
it
in
says
fact-
if there is a water district available, then that's who controls all of the issues
I
and not
disagree.
the city
No,
itself.
I disagree with that 100%. You can't just separate the supply of water from demand. That's one of the problems we have in this community, is we are growing beyond the supply of water. At least as it is on paper. We're going beyond the supply of water in terms of the perennial yield. And as I mentioned before, they have the capability of pumping up to those permits. And that basin is closed to further permitting.
Right,
So all of that.
in the state of Nevada.
I don't care about Arizona and I don't care about Nevada.
But
The
they're
USG
important.
Look, when a scientist like the USGS does a study, they don't say, hey, I'm only going to go here because the border's over there. They look at that whole basin.
Exactly why I contend that all three states should pay for it and not be
Well, I don't-
burdened on the water district
Look,
ratepayers.
my argument is you're mixing up the whole thing.
No, I'm asking the question, you haven't answered.
Okay, I'll answer it again so you can probably hear the answer because you're not listening. I think that the water board should put up some money. They've got 10 million. What's some of that? I think the city, because they create the demand for water, should put up some money, and they have a responsibility in the planning conjunctively of water. If for no other reason, because they have water shares and they have the issues with effluent. Now, certainly if the state can put up some money, if you can get a federal grant, I don't care.
But you don't think Utah and Arizona should have to help pay?
I don't care if they want to pay, fine, but I would not just stand up, as you have said, and say, well, we're not going to do it because Arizona and Utah won't pay. That's just out of the question. We have to find out how much water we have in that basin and how much water can be used.
What if there is less than the allotted 12,271 acre feet?
That's my fear.
What happens then?
Yeah, what does happen?
What are you going to do about it if you're elected to the water board?
You know, one of the things that I learned, in fact, from Kevin Brown the other night, Boulder City apparently has a way they restrict the amount of EDUs that can be administered. Look, if there's no water there, then conservation is going to have to be taken into account. And I have no idea how we would deal with that if there's in fact no water. But that's my fear. That's my fear.
What if there's more?
Well, I hope so. I honestly hope so. But we don't know, do we? You don't know, I don't know, you don't know. Nobody knows. And that's the problem. Now,
Okay.
to delay a study of that basin because Arizona won't pay or Utah won't pay or whoever won't pay is not acceptable. Totally not acceptable. And to plan without considering that conjunctive study and without considering the state engineer's position on whatever the perennial yield and whatever the use of water will be in the future is unacceptable. Because they're planning right now based upon hypothetical plans that the population is going to grow forever and water will magically appear. That is absolutely ridiculous, and that's why I'm running.
Okay.